out there in YouTube land.
Welcome back.
We are starting a new series on the channel.
Yeah, something different.
So it's called Movies and Makeup, and when we do this, we're going to be talking about movies that aren't necessarily horror films, but they're all movies that you can do some type of makeup look to.
Right.
So this week, we decided to do a fun one. We decided to do The Crow.
And it's kind of your goth standard movie, but it's
Pretty much.
it's really good, based off of now a graphic novel that they've put together. And it's a good story.
It is, you know,
Sad
it's,
story.
You know, unrequited love because of a tragedy and stuff. We don't want to totally, get into it right immediately before we, start doing the makeup and everything,
Yes.
but it's just an amazing film. So we thought this would be a fun one to, recreate Eric Draven's look.
And it's kind of an iconic Halloween look, too. A lot of people like to go as Eric Draven, so...
And this is a really simple thing to do. It's not hard. This is a look that pretty much anyone can recreate, which is nice.
It's not difficult.
So basically, what you want to do is you want to start out with a white foundation. We're using, two different types. She's using a liquid one, and I'm using cream. Mm-hmm. But you can use pretty much whatever you're used to working with.
You're wanting to go full-on goth, just stepped out of the grave goth.
So, you just kind of smear around like you do.
Kind of build it up, smear it around a little bit.
And the idea of The Crow is not to look perfect. They actually wanted the makeup to look kind of cruddy and like he'd been on him for a long time. It's supposed to be kind of an impression of insanity, not, perfect ghost or anything like that.
Remember, you just crawled out of the grave.
And when he puts the makeup on, he's in the middle of a kind of a... What do you want to call that?
He's in kind of a mental area where...
Almost kind of like a PTSD moment.
A little PTSD, but a little, assuming the identity of somebody he was not in order to really get revenge on the people that killed him.
And his fiancée.
Mm-hmm. So for those of you that, aren't horribly familiar with the story of The Crow, it's kind of a legend, really, that, those who are killed unjustly can sometimes come back for a set amount of time through the magic of ravens and crows. Which is a little Native American, a little Norse.
And, it's kind of a... I would almost call it a disjointed fairy tale. Because while it has a decent resolution, it's not exactly happy.
And anybody who's actually familiar with the true fairy tales, not a lot of them were happy.
No.
They were kind of, like this. So again, you don't really want this to be, wonderfully blended or, something like that. You just want it to be
It's supposed to kind of look horrific. Mm-hmm. So definitely go down the road toward, now you want your foundation to be somewhat decently blended, but don't, go for absolute perfection.
If you know Dani and I, we use a variety of brushes, beauty blenders, things like that.
I mean, and you can get, basically just use whatever you're used to using. You don't need to, shell out a whole bunch of money to get, this look to look the way it's supposed to.
Now, one thing, if, like me, you have full-on eyebrows, you can just incorporate that into the look, and what I'm doing is just covering them in foundation first.
And since I don't have any eyebrows, I can actually just go straight to the step of making my eyes dark and kind of the skull mask sort of quasi thing that is required for Eric Draven.
Which has always been kind of funny to me that this is kind of the look they went with, you know, as stepping out of the grave, because there's a little bit of magic that has to go with that.
Yeah.
You're not going to look this good coming out of your grave.
No. I mean, especially, you know, honestly, a year in the grave, decomposition has long set in. You're going to look more like a zombie than you are a ghost. So there has to be magic incorporated for someone to even look human coming out of a grave. Which, you know, in the movie and in the book, Eric Draven looks like he did right when he died. So it's not like he has, you know, like rotting skin or anything like that.
Now, one thing I am doing is I'm kind of, just extending the eyebrows a little bit, simply because I'm just going to incorporate it right into the look.
And I'm just kind of packing on black eyeshadow. You can use cream eyeliner for this. You can use theatrical makeup. It's not one of those that you have to be like extensively precise with. Just whatever you want to use, really, that's black.
And you can even, use kind of a dark gray, too, if you...
And I've seen, like, some people, like, do it with, like, purple and different things. It's just, you can pretty much do anything with the look that you want to do. And that's kind of, you know, the fun of makeup. But if you want to be recognizable as the Crow, you're, of course, going to have to do certain things, like the lines through the black and all that stuff, to get people to know that you're doing a representation of that character.
And traditionally, when, the Crow came out, that was it. There wasn't, kind of that gothic look was having the black.
And as we've talked about on the channel before, you know, early goth was, you know, mostly monochromatic dark colors and whatnot. It was not like it is today with huge amounts of color and things like that.
And that's not to say that you can't have that, but for this particular look, you definitely want to stick to that monochromatic appearance. Kind of following along your natural eye. You don't have to be particularly pretty here. Which is a freedom.
It is, because, you know, in American society, it's kind of a thing. If you are female, you're supposed to look a certain way and that type of thing. So doing this type of makeup to where you're not going to be beautiful is fun, honestly. And it's one of the reasons why I enjoy doing like special effects makeup and everything, because you're not supposed to look wonderful, you're supposed to look horrific. And that makes it entertaining and whatnot to me.
It is entertaining. Now, one thing that is interesting about the movie is that Eric Draven's not really goth per se.
No.
When he first comes on the scene, he and his girlfriend, or then fiancée, kind of, normal people, but they just ended up in a really bad situation.
And, you know, the little bit of, like, snippets and stuff that's shown in the film, and somewhat in the book, is that, you know, Eric Draven was originally part of a rock band. In the movie, it gets more intense, like, showing, like, they did use makeup and stuff and the look of the band, but it was actually, like, a metal band. It was not a goth band. Because, like, you know, everybody wore, like, leather jackets and stuff. It was clearly, like, metal stylings, not gothic.
Now I'm kind of, adding a little bit of gray, beige to a greige, to kind of downplay the black just a little bit. Make it a little more, smoky.
Another thing that's kind of cool about the whole, like, idea of the crow and the style is that the idea for the makeup actually came from, like, a Mardi Gras mask. And if you've ever spent any time down in New Orleans and stuff, you'll see, like, the long lines to the eyes and stuff are very, very large part of, like, kind of the clown culture and whatnot that is replicated in those masks. So it's kind of fun and entertaining to know where these things come from.
Now, if you look at Brandon Lee's makeup, he does have a bit of eyeliner on, getting into the waterline, things like that, to just kind of accent.
And to make his face look, very representative of a kind of mask of death, for lack of a better term.
Now, the one thing that was, very tragic with the crow is, the accident that happened on set. It kind of made that a very interesting phenomena that followed the movie around to where it was associated with that accident for a very long time, and it was very tragic.
Yes. And, for those who don't know, basically what had happened is that there was a scene where the crow was supposed to die by being shot with a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And in the movie, the crow didn't actually die, but the scene was that he was supposed to be shot and then come back from that to conquer his villain. And what had happened is that in the making of the movie, instead of getting like normal squibs and stuff like they did in Hollywood at the time, they were short on time and didn't have enough time to make the squibs properly, so they got the idea of just using blanks. And they also didn't have enough time to get the blanks in. So what they did is, one of the props people decided it would be a great idea, which I don't know why in the hell they thought this would be a good idea, but they took real bullets and simply took the firing pin, or the firing cap, out of it. Well, they didn't get all the cap out of this one bullet, so when they shot the gun, they actually literally shot Brandon Lee and killed him. And to this day, I'm still kind of flabbergasted in that, because, having done a lot of, like, theatrical work in my life, that is not a thing that anybody that I know that has ever worked in the theater would have done.
Yes.
Because safety is a huge thing in the theater, and for them to decide that was a great idea, I'm just flabbergasted by. So it was a needless death, and, that's one of the reasons why there's such a huge kind of, I don't know how you want to say it, a legend surrounding his death or conspiracy theories, is because it was such a bizarre accident and not something that you would expect to occur.
Not something that I think anybody with a true understanding of firearms at the time would have done.
No. I mean, most people that I know that are, around firearms a lot, hunters and things like that, would have essentially told the props person, "Are you nuts? That's not something you do."
Yes. Now, one thing, if you have lighter eyebrows and lighter eyelashes, you probably do want to use a little bit of mascara. Now, the movie does have some really comedic moments. One of the fight scenes cracks me up every time, because pretty much Eric Draven's not supposed to move, and they're talking, don't you move, and he literally scuttles like a crab sideways.
Yeah.
It completely cracks me up every time.
And, it's like the ultimate ha ha ha,
It's the ultimate F you, I'm gonna do it anyway, but it literally looks like crab scuttle. So it's
hilarious.
It's hilarious.
And it's definitely one of those things where I really wish that I would have had the pleasure of meeting Brandon Lee, because he had a tendency to do things like that. He a lot of his he wasn't in a lot of films, but all the films that he was in, he's done these kind of goofy, entertaining things through the course of his characters, and so I would have loved to have the pleasure of meeting him, because I can imagine that in real life he was a lot of fun to hang out with.
Yes.
So it's a shame that he passed before his time. And, I guess you could look at his story as one of why safety in film is so important.
Yes.
And I can't talk very good while putting on lipstick, so.
I don't think anybody can. This is a look, too, that, regardless of, who you are, you can pull it off.
Yeah. And girls can do it, boys can do it.
Whatever.
There's not a whole lot to the actual makeup itself.
Especially with it coming into the fall and Halloween season, you can start really kind of grabbing your makeup, your theatrical makeup from places.
Especially if you live in an area that isn't lucky enough to have costume shops that stock makeup all the time.
Now, one thing that they do work on a bit is, contouring, and you can use grays, like on your, up in your kind of eyebrow area, things like that, if you want to contour. Brandon Lee had some insane facial features and bones, and he did.
He had amazing
bone
high
structure.
cheekbones, and most of us aren't that lucky. So
no, we are not. So the other thing that you can do too is use angled brushes in places, not just.
So that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it.
Our versions of crow makeup. We would love to see your impressions of different makeup stylings for like crow styled stuff.
Yes.
And what is your favorite kind of like spooky sort of movie that isn't actually a horror film?
Because this was never marketed as a horror film.
Even though it does have horror elements in it, it was marketed as an action film.
Yeah. Which it has a lot of action, which
it does.
It's awesome.
Absolutely. But, there's also scenes where they fry a girl's eyeball.
Yeah.
So if that isn't horror, I don't know what is.
So let us know, what's your favorite horror movie that's not a horror movie. comment down below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe.
Because we'd love to see you around.
Yep.
So, until next time, bye.
Bye.